I haven't really seen any efforts up that climb to suggest otherwise, although Trek Segafredo clearly on the front, but they've been matched pedal stroke for pedal stroke, I think, by Movistar, and so that 1 second gap between Valverde, or 2 seconds it'd have to be, for Contador to take the lead, looks like it's not going to happen. The breakaway, then, we think, are going to bring this home. So, Matt Stevens, who's your pick?
Well, they've gone over the climb. There's no real obstacles all the way to the finishing line now. So it's what rider's got the best legs, also the best tactical head. Will somebody catch the others by surprise and win solo, or will we see it come down to a group sprint? And looking at the composition of the group so far, I reckon, I'm going to stick my neck out and say Simon Clark, should they go to the finish together, should take it in a sprint. Otherwise, I'm thinking Victor Campenaerts, solo mission to take it. I've got two options there.
Well,
there we go.
They are your options. They're also mine. Campenaerts, Tim Wellens possibly skirmishing, but I think he looked a little bit like something's missing. Maybe he's could be a kidology.
Indeed.
But Simon Clark, for me, is the tough guy. We know he can sprint from a small group. If it comes that way in Milan-San Remo, you won't find 400 to 1 for him at the end of today if he brings home the victory, because it'll tell you he's on form, he's riding the weather, and whether he'll win or not possibly will depend on Monsieur Météo. But Simon Clark's got a great chance today if Campenaerts doesn't go for a long one. If Campenaerts springs off the front, we've already shown him testing them, it's very difficult to catch him.
Again, it's whether he's played his hand a little bit too early. But interestingly, when we came back to that digitised shot that was a little bit broken up, it was actually Wellens and Clark who were somewhat detached. I think those two riders are looking at each other. The other three riders less fancied perhaps in the sprint. The out-and-out favourites, and everybody knows it within that group. They'll know who the riders they need to look out for. I think Wellens and Clark, there's a slight danger. They might kind of, not outfox each other, but kind of negate each other, and that's where there's a danger. They're going to look to each other to chase down the other riders. The other riders in the break know that as well, so it's going to be a fascinating tactical battle to the line.
There is Contador within his own Trek Segafredo group. He sits third man, but he's seventh in this line, or eighth. And you can see the red jersey of Valverde. Clearly he's keeping the pressure on, but I don't think there's going to be a serious attempt here by Contador to get the drop on Valverde, because he'd have to time trial his way to the line, and the way Valverde performed in the time trial to Lucena was absolutely outstanding. We hook back and we pick up as Novak goes to the front of this group right now. There is Wellens, big danger for everyone. He's had a superb race, Wellens. He just hasn't managed to pull out a stage victory. He's got a chance today because he's part of the breakaway, but he's got to deal with Simon Clark, he's got to deal with Campenaerts. They've also got to deal with Matej Paterski, who in a situation like this...
He's pretty quick as well.
Very quick.
Paterski is very, very fast in the finish, and they're going to be aware of each other's abilities, and they're going to have to factor that into the strategy they apply to the last few kilometres. But what they're also going to have to do is ride as hard as they can to keep the bunch at bay, because the bunch are still going to be chasing hard. The bunch, although I think the belief is ebbing away, they're still driving hard. These, I think, are pictures from just before the climb. This is a repeat. This is before Mr. Bravo was detached. But, of course, he was the early protagonist. So, again, chapeau for him for mixing it really well with this breakaway today.
We're just being told, by the way, that we are still down at the line. Pictures are down, I'm afraid. So we're just going to have to wait for these guys. No temptation to stop at Lidl. There are other supermarkets available, but very few is cheap. I think I'll go down as a free ad. 2 minutes and 30 is the gap. They're going to make it, which is why this is getting a bit cat and mousey back in the pack. It's not a full-on drive to catch them right now. Looking, that says the head of the peloton, but it's clearly not.
Yeah, well, the group, we just got some information through from Race Radar that the gap is still 2 minutes and 30. So as you said, Carlton, that, unless something awful happens, and you never know in these conditions, they still need to keep their head. They still need to make sure they don't take too many risks through these roundabouts. Remember, they're in a pretty built-up urban area. You've got that diesel on the roads, and that was one of the things that Valverde and Contador were both quite nervous about. Regardless of the terrain itself, it's when it rains at this neck of the woods, it gets very, very slippery indeed.
Okay, it's a bit of guesswork for us, unfortunately, at the moment, but we're going to go onto a highway, and then when we have that motorway intersection, if we get to see it, you're looking at the remnants of the peloton at the moment, but we still have our breakaway. Sorry for the confusion a few moments ago, but we will have this highway. I can't even see the nomic on the highway. However, it is a major route, and then you have that slip road with the big roundabout, and that's our reference point that tells us there's 2.5 kilometres to go if we see the break, because at the moment the helicopter's staying with these guys. And why are they staying with these guys? Because it's Valverde, because it's Contador, and they think this is where the story's going to happen, and the break are going to take the day. So we're staying with this in terms of the story. Thank you. 9.8 kilometres to go. So at least I'm just about level with where we are, as we are on the outskirts of Coin. But it's the ring road that is the fascinating bit. Here's one of the hairpins. This will be with about 12 k's to go as they come into town. That's the peloton, don't forget. But the breakaway still up there, albeit minus 2 of their personnel. Well, could be for minor places, but that battle between Contador and Valverde, they'll have a sprint against each other, but in a head-to-head on a fast day, you'd have to go with the man who wears the leader's jersey, I think.
He would. He's a very skilled rider. We know he's no mean sprinter as well, and finished well high up the order yesterday, 14th place, in fact, in that bunch kick. So he's going to be, riding in about 5th or 6th wheel. Movistar controlling the pace, but this is a great aerial shot of the peloton as they navigate their way through the town, going over these sleeping policemen. There's lots of paint, these zebra crossings on the road, but just look at the gaps in between the wheels. That just shows how nervous it is in these weather conditions. And the riders are going to have to be totally switched on all the way to the line, because there's a danger today, Carlton. There could be time gaps as they're going through the finish. Those roundabouts in the last 800 metres, 1,300 metres could split things up.
There is Valverde. So the Movistar boys are out front. You see Trek Sagafredo with Contador just behind. Valverde, who's 4th in line as you look at this particular grouping, which is the nose of the pack, the peloton, as we stand, coming in for one of their turns here and taking it very, very carefully, and no surprise there. The chasing group, then, I think it's now being declared as, and it's starting to suggest itself as that. I think Valverde might like to come across the line safely, and indeed surrounded by his Movistar team. Why not? A great picture that would be on the pages of the sports press tomorrow. Contador will be there or thereabouts, but he's not going to beat Valverde, I wouldn't have thought, despite the fact it's only that pesky second. However, our breakaway is where our thoughts rest at the moment, and it's just a shame for you at home that we're not seeing pictures of it. It might well just be a snapshot at the very, very last as they cross the line, but there it is. Movistar 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and in P4 that's Valverde. You look behind, there's Contador sandwiched between his teammates at the moment, all close at hand, but in a sprint Valverde's going to take the title here. He wears the leader's jersey, he's going to keep it.
You would have thought so. As I said, Valverde leads Contador by 1 second, and you've got Pinot just behind at 6 seconds in 3rd place. All of those riders are just thinking about now getting to the finish safely. Remember, we're still in only February. They'll be pretty happy with their overall placing. And Alberto Contador said what he won't do today, he may try and attack should the situation present itself, but he basically wants to get through this race. He's off to Abu Dhabi next week, but his first major objective of the year is to try and win Paris-Nice, and he wants to get through this race unscathed. He's indicated he's in very good form. He wants to build on that and not take any undue risk in these sorts of conditions.
There we are. Paris-Nice, great form tester, of course, and you'll be able to keep in touch with the great race here with, of course, the man who, when it so many times they used to try and pay him to stay away, Sean Kelly. There's your finish line. Just bleeding it out of your screen, as you can see. What have we got? About 80 metres here, something like that.
Yeah, if that.
To play with. That may well be the only shot. I wish they'd send the helicopter off to monitor the breakaway, and I think they may well have done just that. Searching as it is on the curves of the highway, and finally we pick up our breakaway from the aerial. And it looks like Camponertz has gone off, has it?
One rider in
Camponertz?
No, I think that was like the Basque
yes,
car.
It is.
I think
that is Bravo.
Still ploughing a lonely furrow. He's been detached on the climb.
So they think they found the breakaway, but they haven't. They've found Gorikolts, I'm afraid. The search will go on for the break. I'm not sure how connected our friend in the helicopter is, but that's not our breakaway group. Well, Simon Clark, Campanets, Tim Vellens. We've got one of the security cars coming through here. One of those sort of pre-checkers, if you like, that go through. There are several of those just to make sure that everything is clear. You'll see motorcycles coming through as well. All the camera bikes will be just sent out from the pack with, in fact, out of our sight here. So the camera, there will be, of course, the race camera. And finally, we pick him up. And here we are. So, out front, that is Tim Vellens. He is here as well. You've got Roompot at the back. That's Van der Leijken. We've got Campanets. We've got Pateski, of course, and we've got Cy Clark. It's as we expected. And Campanets rolls off the front. Pateski goes with him. What's Wellens' response going to be right now? He sticks at the back. Cy Clark's going to try and bridge over them. Pateski here in the Tangerine is looking more and more a danger. There, Victor Campanets probing, just testing everybody. He's definitely going to go for a long one, but can he make it stick in his yellow and black jersey? Pateski's nobody's fault. They're cat-mousing. They've got a cushion sufficient to bring this in. The more they do this, the more they stick together, the more it plays into the hands of Simon Clark. We've got another distance marker for us right now, just been displayed. We're getting close.
This is fantastic stuff. Real cat and mouse stuff. It's Tim Wellens as last man. It looks like a Novak had been dropped from Bahrain Merida. He is back in the mix, and it is Nick van der Leijken who goes off the front. This group is split to two. It's a game of poker behind. Wellens is now trying to close the gap.
He is. He almost took out Simon Clark there. Simon Clark responds, doesn't want to be anyone's fool, but it was Van der Leijken that looked like he was adding something. This is that highway. I think we're probably about 3 Ks from home right now. Let's have a look. This is the intersection, so I believe anyway that they'll go along here. No distance marker for you, I'm afraid, but the way they're cat and mousing, it's got to be close. So let's assume that we're about 3 Ks out marker as we stand right now. They've got 2 minutes on those chasing, and this is that long highway, the big approach, as I was saying.
That was like a nasty drag there, Carlton.
So once we get up to the top of that, that will be with about 2.3 kilometres remaining. So they've got to go up here. They'll take a slip road, remember. They'll take a left-hander, and then they will cut back. And thankfully, we've got pictures. I think they must have refueled the plane. Well, there it is, 1:13.
Oh, they need to keep pressing on here.
That says 1.13 seconds, actually. But anyway, slightly out. 1:13. They've got to keep pressing on. 4 Ks out. So we know where we are on the course. It's that approach up to that slip road. They can't afford to start staring at each other. Otherwise, they'll all fall in the abyss.
Well, that's why we've finally seen, after that little bit of cat and mouse, them drifting all over the road, losing a lot of momentum, and in the process time, it's Victor Campanats of Lotto NL Jumbo, the Belgian TT champion, setting things up at the front just to keep this group going. But that looks like a nasty drag. Just getting information through that this is a long 800-metre drag at about 6% gradient, but nobody here is willing to try and move this on, all thinking about the race when drifting all over the road. Will somebody take a stab at this, or are they going to lose out to the peloton, who clearly are breathing down their necks now?
They are. The peloton's getting itself into colour order right now. The sprinters team starting to think that they might just have a chance. As Campanats decides that he's going to have to time trial this. I think this is probably Campanats' last chance at shaking everybody off. Pateski seems nice and lively. I've got to say, Simon Clark looks like he's struggling just at the back at the moment, trying to get back in on this incline. He is the fastest man here, and he's the one that they want to lean on and take out. A few moments ago, Pateski sailed so close they almost tangled bars. Pateski there in the Tangerine. Let's run through it for you. Nick van der Leijken is in the other orange with white accents. You've got Novak, 77 from Bahrain Merida, in the Wiggins colours. Let's put it that way, shall we? Clark is in the green of Cannondale Drapac. At the back at the moment is Tim Vellens, who's had his chances in this race. So brave in the break on stage 2. Campanets doesn't want to carry everyone all the way, and they still look at each other. Somebody's going to break for this. Cy Clark goes over to that side of the road and rides almost with the camera bike, and look how much strength he's still got left. And it's interesting to see Tim Vellens is staying with him as if to say, no, I'm going to hang on to your back wheels. They passed the 3K to go marker. So in about 300, 400 metres, here's that slip road right now that we're telling you about. So they rise up to it. They've dealt with the climb, the last kicker, if you like. There's the sign to Coeen. They go into this one. They'll take a quarter of the roundabout. I don't think they go all the way round it, but you never know. It is closed. Let's have a look. Which way will they take this? In fact, they're going to be forced to go all the way round and not switch back on it in the wet. That is an amendment to the map here, Matt.
Well, this is fascinating stuff. They risk getting mugged here. here by the peloton. They need to keep pressing on. 2.5 kilometres to go on that long straight. The peloton would have had them in their sights. I think Maciej Peterski now of CCC's Brandy Polkowici, the Polish rider, sense the danger. If any one of these 6 riders is to stand a chance, they need to have some sort of coordination. They need to work together for at least another K. This is very, very dangerous. They're playing a very dangerous game.
They are. We'll get a heads-up shot in a little while as Campenaerts goes for it. This is the big one for Campenaerts. Can't see him giving it up this time by. He needs to time trial himself. Checks over his shoulder, sees that Simon Clark. That's no good to him. Simon Clark is still staying with it. Peterski it was, and Novak that took them to this position up the ramp there. But it's the 4 principals, the 4 favourites, who now line up 1, 2, 3 and 4. Well, it could well finish that way, but I think it may well be a bit more of a shake-up before we get there. And Campenaerts says, no, I'm not going to do any of you any favours. Every time they do that, the pack who are chasing in at the moment are getting closer and closer. It's almost becoming a slow bicycle race. Simon Clark's talking to them and saying, listen, I'm not going to pick it up. They want him out of there.
The gap apparently we're hearing through on race is only 1 minute now. Nick van der Leijken on Roompot, Orange Peloton. He drifts on the front, a bit of a stealth move. He is countered by Tim Wellens. Then Peterski takes up the chase behind.
Wellens going for it, going for the bridge now. Have they done enough to fatigue Simon Clark? I think they've fancied their chances against anybody but him. Oh, and his head goes down momentarily. I don't know whether he's kidding. Campenaerts just behind as well, and still they spread wide. 2 kilometres to go. Now let's just talk you through this one, shall we? There's a couple of cheeky corners, and they may well get mobbed by the pack. Peterski still fancies his chances here, and I'm not surprised, especially in this company. Oh, look at that. Van der Leijken testing them, and takes Wellens with him. There goes Simon Clark just drifting in behind Damian Novak. Simon Clark's going to try and get up here, but Wellens looks very lively. Will he make amends? Simon Clark is dragging Campenaerts in the yellow over this little gap just for the time being. This is the one of the corners that I was telling you about. There's another one just like this, much closer to the line. You've seen the way it unwinds at the line. So Simon Clark again still has time to look behind him and see who he's dragging with him. Doesn't want to lay it on the line just yet. I think it was probably a trackies check as well to see where the pack are.
1 kilometre to go now, and it's still all together. Look, it's like almost a track race here, grinding to a halt. No momentum at all. Novak looks potentially dangerous at the back. He's in prime position at the moment. Tim Wellens isn't where he wants to be. Simon Clark, arguably the fastest sprinter in the green for Canada Drapac, is currently in P3.
Simon Clark then looking very cagey. He's in a lockdown situation at the moment because you've got riders all around him. Peterski, everyone wants Simon Clark's wheel. That's Simon Clark's problem at the moment. The meters are coming down. They're going to go around this roundabout, so it will be a gentle left and a gentle right. They'll have to do it again with about 300 metres to go. Here we are then, and they started to go for it. Simon Clark just bent it in. Tim Wellens picks it up. Simon Clark staying with Tim Wellens. Simon Clark in the green. Campenaerts goes to the other side of the road. We're not going to see it until the very last. Oh, it's going to be the boys from Rumble, is it? Oh my goodness, it's Wellens that takes it at the last. The bravest man out there. Wellens for Lotto Soudal. Well, he fell off the bike, don't forget, after a mighty breakaway on stage 2. Got back on it, and finally he's got the stage win that many thought he so richly deserved then. He also finished top 5, we remind you, when it came to the time trial. Absolutely superb. In fact, it was 7th place on the time trial, and the clock ticks back to see just how close they were. But chapeau to Tim Wellens. They mugged essentially Simon Clark, who was the danger man there. What a finish. Here it is from Heads Up.
Well, he played a really, really canny game. He used the slipstream of Nick van der Leijken, wound up a big gear, just used his strength, used his experience, went very, very long, but there was nothing that Simon Clark could do about it. Clark is sprinting, and actually the gap was widening as they crossed the line, but Clark got a 2nd place for Canada Drapac, and I think it might have been Peterski or Campenaerts just nudging them. Maybe, well, Peterski perhaps on the inside, but a clear winner there, and what a well-deserved win. He's fought and fought and fought. Look at the confidence on his face. Win number 3 for Tim Wellens of Lotto Soudal.
Second story of the day is about to be revealed here. Can Contador find a second? Well, he needs 2 to overtake Alejandro Valverde in terms of the clock, if you don't want to factor in the count back. So here we are. We're coming through all of these roundabouts that will just bring us to the line. And in fact, here is your Heads Up at the very last. And one of the Wanty boys just heading off the nose. In fact, you have to feel sorry for those that were part of the breakaway. Marco Minara just crossing the line. Here we are then. Time for bragging rights only, I think at the very last, and in fact we look back to see if there are any gaps between Valverde and Contador, and I think it would be a very brave commissaire who decided to change it on a day like this. I think they'll be given the same time. In fact, it may well be, if there were any gaps, that Contador was a little bit further back. He's got other fish to fry, but what a day. So, the breakaway made it in grisly conditions.